So we're here in Vail, Colorado Snowsports Museum. So this is the out there exhibits. The snowboard component of the museum. It's State of Colorado's official museum. So that's Chris Pappas's board, Sims 1500. With those bindings, they just have basically one hole in the whole pattern. He actually dropped, he was the first rider ever to drop Corbett's at Jackson Hole. And he dropped it on that board with those bindings with Sorel's. So that's a baller move right there. We talked about the snow surf. This is the actual snow surf. And so some controversy, people didn't believe it, that it actually existed and the footage was real, but it actually is completely real. It only came goofy. So you put your toe under the strap, and then you put your front foot on the pad, and then you held the rope in the front, and then you dragged it. That was the drag stick. So basically you're dragging a stick behind you to try to be able to actually turn. And the way we know it's real, not fake, is because there was actually a patent filed and given in 1939. There's another drawing that shows how it's used with somebody actually standing up. It's not a, it says sled, like it's a, they just call it a sled because there was no word for it yet. But it managed to dig out the information that it was actually a company trying to make snowboards in the 30s. And it didn't go anywhere because of World War II, but it's pretty cool. So that was, we were talking about, all you're really trying to do with bindings is keep some sort of connection to the board. And so they were trying that early on. So we talked about Tom Sims. Here's another one of the 6 degrees of separation boards of Tom Sims. That's Woody Huntington, another friend of Tom's in New Jersey back in the 60s. So that's a fiberglass board he made in the late 60s. This was one of the first flight decks. So again, that's what you're asking earlier about, what is the middle thing? It's so you can actually get some, it's not one big arc of a rubber strap. It can be 2, so it's tighter for your feet. This canoe, that's what you're kind of talking about, how edges and then the fins to continue the edge. So this is one of the very first canoes, which is that. Well, it's a Fiberflex skateboard, GNS Fiberflex. That was like a really well-known board at the time. But you buy these kits separately, and so you could turn your skateboard into a snowboard. Yeah, exactly. Sherm Poppins, that's his first. That's what he got the patent off of. But that's where he kind of started with the grip tape, and then they moved to staples and the rope to try to be able to control a little bit better. Mark Halseth. So they did the Snurfer Super Racing model, and Mark tried to make bindings because he didn't want a rope. And so this board actually, there's a Labatt's beer commercial that was filmed in the late 70s on Loveland Pass here in Colorado. First known anything that had anything to do with snowboarding on TV. And so you'll see he's riding, his wife Jane and Paul Graves are riding in that thing. And so he was riding a rope, and that's because he had the bindings that he had created. And then, of course, we've got other bindings. That's Jake's board from when he entered the open class or created the open class at the World Snurfing Chip. So the kind of that style binding was the first sort of the era, right? Yeah. And then you kind of go through. Oh, here, that's what you're asking about. That other board where he actually tried to make the bindings, his first bindings. That this was a production model, the Pro model, and so that holds the strap halfway, so you can put your toe under one and you put your heel under the other. Yeah, exactly. And then going through more, of course, early Jake prototype. Again, trying to find some sort of traction. So this was like almost like a traction mat from like a pool or something like that on a fiberglass board. But he is a 77. It's like, yeah, and so that's but he rode it with he held a rope, and this was obviously the production model. Yeah, wow. Using horizontal lam like skateboard construction again, and this is actually the molding block that they made all of those boards on, which is super cool. This board is, you can't see, maybe you can get the phone behind there, but you'll see there's actually edges. So this is the first Burton board ever with edges.
Rusting appropriately.
Rusting appropriately, exactly. But talking bindings, so we saw that early Swift board that was Never Summer before Never Summer, but this was kind of the second generation of their bindings, and people were using Tim and Tracy Kennedy, using parts of the Lang boot, and then Mike Trotman, UCB, another Colorado company, just again trying to make any sort of bindings you can. So then if you look at the actual sort of evolution of the binding, here's the Kurt Hill, that's the releasable. And then here's Grell's Highback with his H logo. So this, yeah, exactly. So this was basically, you would attach it to your leg and then, put it over your boot. So you put on your boot, then that went under your boot, the strap, and then you like ratcheted it to your upper leg, and then it basically has a ski boot inner cut off. And then of course the first fold down. So Lopos, yeah, they're incredible though. So he first of all he built them out of a ski boot, and then refined it. And so this was kind of where he, like you said, he was trying to get them to fit into his car. But those are the first like integrated fold down. This is cool. That's the actual production model of the Highback.